Welcome, everyone. This is another edition of the AWS Blogger. Now, what we like to do is bring in various Amazonians who have done unique things and bring them on scenes to talk about what they've done. I'm bringing you a really cool series here of, the integration, a series of builders, but also an important topic, women in tech, women in IoT. And, everybody's excited to hear about the sweet cinnamon candy dispenser. And I'm going to hold in anticipation to a little bit later. But we have a special guest, Laura Hyatt. Laura, how are you?
Hi. Yeah, I'm really good. Thanks. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to do this.
Thanks for joining. Now, Laura and I got a chance to chat probably 2 times in the last week. Our very first time just talking about doing this. I think we spent an hour when we really only had it for like half an hour. So we don't have a really specific ending time on this. It's going to go where it goes. If it goes an hour, great. If not, hopefully we give everybody what they're looking for. So thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
So, Laura, real quick, how was your weekend?
It was pretty good. It's not bad. I'm glad that lockdown is a little bit easy. I don't know what it's like where you are, but we're allowed to go out now, which is good because I was going a little bit insane inside. I'm not going to lie. And so it's nice. And it's really nice weather, actually. I don't know if you can kind of see. So that is pretty good.
Nice. That's really good. We just had hot, humid weather here the entire weekend, but hey, I can't complain. It's better than freezing cold, and I get to use the pool. So
I'm very jealous of that. Yeah, normally we don't have pools here in the UK. It's normally far too cold.
Yeah, no problem. So let's get right into it and the topic. Women in IoT. I came across your sweet sentiment thing on Twitter, and I loved it. I didn't even know who you were, and I didn't even know that you were an Amazonian at the time. I was like, oh, this is really cool. And we're not getting to it yet, but I'm just telling you about how I got hooked up with Laura. A good friend of mine, David Smith, who helps me out with all our our underground deep racer events, suggested you. And when I looked you up on our internal tool, and then I also saw he sent me your Twitter link, and I'm like, oh my God, I know her. Well, I don't know her, but I know of her and what you did. So I was like, I got to talk to her. I got to see how she did some things. So, that was really cool. Anticipation, we're holding it.
It was so funny. I had so many people say the same thing. Like the amount of people that have seen that video is just insane. And then I get messages from people saying like, oh, I've seen your video. And I'm like, I don't even know who you are. Like it's been insane. I mean, it's amazing, but how far that video traveled, especially internally with AWS, just like the amount of people like across the globe that kind of saw it. Like I never expected that at all. Like, it was insane.
That's the diverse builders and everything. Let's get started here and ask, being a woman in tech, really, how did you get your first job in tech? And, kind of talk about that. I think everybody wants to know. I mean, after seeing what you did on Twitter there, I know you've got a lot of interesting stories. Heck, I think I can ask you so many of them. Like, oh my God, I'm wowed by all the things you do. I'm a nerd myself, but I don't think I could do half of those. But I like talking to people who can.
Okay, so I suppose the first thing. So I did a sort of like a hybrid degree between computer science and management. So I always knew I wanted to go into tech. But I kind of, when I left university, didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I think so many people don't. And, like you decide when you go to university, like, well, here it's like 17, and you're trying to think what you want to do. And I was like, do I want to do something technical? Do I not? And I think what's, for me, was really important, and I try and always say this with people looking into going to technology, is that you actually don't need to decide what you're going to do, like, long term, like when you're 17. Like, it's good to have an idea, but I think so many people get sort of so wrapped up that you need to decide what you want to do the rest of your life so early, and that's not the case. Like, I've made a lot of different, I suppose, like career choices, and like I wouldn't say it's like harmed me in any way. In some ways, it's made it a lot better. So I left university and I didn't really know where I wanted to go, and I joined a grad scheme like in technology. So I started off in banking. I thought that's where I wanted to go because, it was like, oh, it's a proper job, let's go banking. And sorry, what's going on my hair. And then I kind of just didn't really know what I wanted to do. I then ended up doing more of like a project management role for a while, within technology, but less hands-on. And then I kind of realized this wasn't what I wanted to do at all. And you do feel like you're a little bit like pigeonholed almost. Like I'd done a number of years sort of in that sort of space. And then obviously your CV kind of, that's what's on it. And so when recruiters are looking at your CV, that's what they see is what you do. And I was actually at the time trying to think what I wanted to do. And I can't remember how. And so that was it. So I had a contract job doing some project management work for a firm who were doing an AWS migration, and I wasn't involved in the actual like technical migration part, but I got to know about AWS. And to be honest, like I didn't really know what it was. I didn't really know what cloud was, and this was years ago. Found it really interesting. I thought, okay, I'm going to go learn about this, and I ended up taking the cloud practitioner exam, which I think had just come out. So there wasn't that much information on it. But ended up studying for that and passing that, and absolutely just kind of fell in love with AWS. And I was like, right, this is where I want to go. But like I said, so I went and took like the other exams. So I then did my other three associate AWS exams. And this was all while I had another job which wasn't involved in AWS. In fact, at the time, I was doing a job where they were really anti-cloud. Not sure how that's working out for them now, but they were really anti-cloud. And so I just studied in my sort of spare time, on my lunch break, and that sort of thing. But then when I was trying to apply for jobs, like I said, I was kind of struggling to get a job, doing something technical. Even though exams, like exams can only, it just shows you know stuff on paper. And that's what I find is quite hard the way I guess just recruitment in general works, is that, and I get it, like obviously all they have to see is what your experience is on paper. And so I was like, how am I gonna prove that I actually know what I'm talking about? And people won't give me callbacks. And so I decided to go with a bit of a novel approach, and I'd used social media just sort of personally and just fun kind of for a long time. And so I was quite sort of clued up on social media, I suppose. Like I'd used Twitter and LinkedIn and everything. And so I decided to go and build something and then post it on social media, so on LinkedIn and Twitter, as almost like a start of a portfolio, because I was like, it literally is going to prove that I do actually have skills. Like I know what I'm talking about. I can actually implement things. And so I built this, basically it was a remote start car using AWS. I don't know if I think you've got the video if you want to.
Yeah. So before I actually, that's really good segue. And before I bring that video in, I think that's really interesting on what you're talking and how you did everything. Like you're in project management, and then you took the initiative on your own to get the cloud practitioner, 3 other associates, all while still doing project management, correct?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And then you're handing people this resume that says, I only do project management. It shows no technical skills sitting on a piece of paper. And that's really kind of, that's a barrier for you.
Yeah.
And that's a barrier for women. That's not showing them their true experience of all their technical capabilities.
I think this is the thing. Like, I'd obviously learned a lot of technical skills at university, but again, it was such a long time ago now. And I mean, I'd learned Java, and then I learned Python in my spare time, and like I had all this, but it's almost strange. Like, you get your degree, and it's almost like a tick in a box, but actually, it's your work experience that counts. And I kind of get why. But I hadn't really used any of the technical skills I learned at university, post-university, because I just ended up down this project management route. And it was kind of more of so I joined a grad scheme, and you basically and I was in a technology like grad scheme, but you don't choose what role you want to go into. They just place you where they think you would fit in. And I don't know how that works or anything, but I basically got placed on a project management team, still within technology, but it was like a technology project.
Yeah.
But like obviously not using anything. And obviously I did 2 years of that grad scheme. And then when I came to look for another job, obviously my role had been project management. And then so I was like, okay, well, I'll take another job that's kind of like that. And that's where it kind of went. And then you get stuck with this like CV that, and like it wasn't actually where I wanted to go. And I kind of got to a point when I was like, I don't know how old I was, 26 or something. And I was like, okay, I need to make a conscious decision now. Otherwise, I'm just going to have to continue like this. Yeah, so basically, I was like, right, I need to show people that I can do stuff. And I thought, I know how to use social media. And social media, it's funny, gets such a bad rep sometimes, I think, now to hear about like influencers and all of this lot. But actually, it can be used for so many other things and so many good things. So basically, I built this remotely starting a car engine from technically
All
around
right.
the world. Yeah,
I don't want to interrupt you. I want to let me bring that into the
Yeah.
scene here, because I definitely don't want, I apologize. I want to bring that in. So right now I'm going to bring in what she did. I have the volume down on it, but she's going to walk you through how it works. So right now you're explaining the Raspberry Pi. Go ahead. Tell us what you did and how you put this together, because I built up some anticipation on this. When we were talking about this the other day, I was like, oh, you got to give me that video. I want to share that out there. Mind you, everybody, I will share a couple of links here on the chat that you can watch the video later that's on social media. But walk us through what you did here, and then really, how did you use this for social media? How did you use this?
Yeah, so basically what it is it's AWS Greengrass, which is basically running on the Raspberry Pi. And then there's a Lambda function like running locally on the Pi. And all it is a Python script that it's about this much line of code, and it basically just turns on some GPIO pins, which triggers the relay board, and then that relay board basically triggers the starter motor of the car. It has to be a classic car. So this is a Ford Cortina. This will not work on a modern car. I'll be honest, like I'm not sort of, massively into cars, but they've got sort of technology in place to be able to stop you doing this. But basically that small trigger from the Raspberry Pi literally triggers the relay of that, which then starts the car engine. And then because all you need is a Wi-Fi or 4G connection to the Raspberry Pi, you could literally technically start the car engine from anywhere in the world. And so I used that the IoT button. They actually don't, they discontinued them now, but you could technically use like another button if you wanted. And basically all I'm doing is pressing that, which then triggers the Lambda function on the Pi. Yeah, so technically, I didn't test it from anywhere in the world, obviously, but I tested it from like, down the road and stuff like that. And just using like 4G on my phone, and it literally starts the car engine. So all it's doing is literally connecting. It's got Greengrass, like I said, the Lambda function, connecting to AWS Cloud, and it's starting this car engine. And I wanted to do that. Like I said, it's something super simple using like a handful of services there. It's about this much line of code. Like it's hardly anything. The actual architecture is super simple, but I wanted to do something that had a bit of impact. So obviously starting a car engine remotely and technically being able to start it from anywhere in the world, like it's kind of a bit of a headline. And I knew that when I did it. And I thought, oh, I'll post it on social media and hopefully some people will see it and it'll get people's attention. And even if it's just then, because then I put the link on my CV, because, obviously like now you post your CV kind of online, so the link would actually work. So I was like, even if they just click it and then it just asks them, like it makes them think and kind of, oh, maybe we'll speak to her, just to ask some questions about it. And it was kind of supposed to be a talking point. But actually that initial video, I posted it on LinkedIn as well, and it got like 60,000 views, and I was just like blown away. Like I can't even tell you, like I was just sat there going, what is going on? And I was getting messages from people and people commenting, and it was just amazing. And that's actually how I ended up getting my first job in like a technical role using AWS. So basically people saw it and then they were like, oh, well, she can obviously do stuff. And yeah, so I ended up, I got a few people contact me and obviously went for some interviews, and yeah, ended up getting my first AWS job. So I worked for Deloitte, as a cloud engineer, and ended up like I did a lot of Terraform and sort of building AWS infrastructure. Yeah, and basically I got that through social media essentially. And it's funny, when people say now like what would you recommend for, it's not just women, but obviously there is a disparity between the number of women in a technical role and men, but it could, it works for anybody. I would say, use social media, because the traditional CV doesn't work that well if your career isn't linear. Um, and I think for a lot of women, it's not. And there's a whole thing about, like sort of like if women take time off for maternity as well, that obviously then causes a massive gap and maybe loss of skills or something. And then you could say, I don't know, during maternity leave, might have learned some new skills, but because it's not correlated to work experience, that's really hard to actually show on a CV. So again, I think social media is perfect for this. And actually, funny enough, with my sweet machine, kind of proves that again, because I've had so many opportunities because of something I posted on social media. And so I honestly would recommend to anybody, if you want to, if you're looking for a new job or just to show that you can do something, build a portfolio, like use social media. It is perfect for this.
So I really like that. I actually like that approach. I'm a traditional, I guess, CV person, putting it together, everything on paper. But I mean, now I might be able to showcase some, live skills that I might have or that. But I think the approach that you utilized here for showcasing your work, that your CV does not show how well and how technical you are, and put it out there. Now, you said you had 60,000 views on the remote car starter, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Which I was blown away by.
So I think that's awesome. I mean, I'm happy when I get like 1,200 views on something, So I applaud you on that. That's really good. Just going that route and doing it social media. I think that really attracts a lot of, showcases your talent on there. And you find it you don't traditionally find talent that you're just going to post your resume on and say, hey, listen, here, okay, here's my paper. So that's really awesome. I actually want to get to the other one I think everybody's been waiting to hear about, only because I think this is a great segue into it. You talked about 60,000 views on your remote car starter thing. And by the way, I do have to admit, when I first heard about you, I only knew about the sweet machine. And when we were just chatting last week, you were telling me about the remote car starter. I'm like, wait, what? I was like, I gotta talk about this.
That's the OG one.
Yes. Yeah, that was awesome. We also have a cool Lego City thing to talk about.
Yeah.
So, Laura's not just a person who's just did one thing. I mean, her mind's running on different projects, different things she can work on and improve and have fun. Here at Amazon and AWS, we really strive on diverse builders. I mean, we as builders, we get the free roam to do things and to play around with things and have fun, and it's encouraged about that one. So hats off. I bet you by the end of this, I'll learn of a new thing that you did.
Yeah. Well, I'm working on now.
No, we're not going to get to that one yet, but I will learn it. I told her she had to hold on to some of these things.
Yeah, sorry.
I don't want to know all about everything, but I want to talk about it. So let's get to this sweet machine. Before I bring it up onto this one, I think everybody, this is awesome. This is what this is one of the things I thought was pretty cool that you built. I'm bringing it on the screen right now. So I have it. I have your video playing. Do you want to walk us through, first of all, the idea, or however you want to approach this, the idea why you did it, and then this video. You told me how this video was captured too, which is a good story. So go ahead.
So basically, so there was like I say it was going to be a conference called USISA, which is, I think it's the largest education technology conference in EMEA, or at least the UK. I think it's EMEA. So I work in technology, obviously. I work in education. So my customer segments are like universities, researchers, edtechs, that sort of thing. So we were going to go to this conference, and AWS were sort of I think they were the primary sponsor. Obviously, the conference didn't happen because of COVID, but we were going to have a big stand there, and we were in this meeting kind of talking about, how can we sort of, attract people onto the stand, talk about AWS, obviously get them interested, and then, obviously we could maybe get them as a customer or something like that. And someone mentioned that last year on the stand, they had a pick and mix store, like a literally traditional, as you would in a shop. And they said, got a lot of people come because everybody wants sweets. But then people get sweets and then just sort of sneak off away, and didn't actually want to talk about literally just came for the sweets, which I don't blame them. But
they do a distraction. Hey, look over there. And
and they didn't actually want to talk about AWS. And so I don't know like how it came, but I just went, I could make something AWSify it. Like I could do something around that. And it kind of, the idea, so I was like, I'm going to do something IoT with sweets. So I was like, let's make that. If that's what people like, I was like, I could do something with IoT. And then I was trying to have a think, and something came to me and it was something I'd seen, not a sweet machine, but I'd gone to, there's like a festival called EMF Camp, runs every 2 years. And it's basically a, like hacker maker tech-ish sort of like festival. It's literally outside, like I think there's about 1,500 people that go, and instead of music intense, they have like talks on and how to build things, and it's literally for like hackers, makers, that sort of thing. And one of the previous years that I'd been to, someone had a demo of a sentiment analysis drink dispenser, and it was like, because it was like festival, it was like cocktails, and it was like the sadder you looked, the more cocktail you got.
The stronger your drink.
It was like, you probably need it. And I just thought that was such a fun thing, and that was like probably 2-3 years ago now, and stuck in my mind. And then I don't know why, I just remembered that, and I was like, and at Christmas, I first used Recognition, so our like sort of machine learning tool, and I hadn't played with it before, but they've got like an emotion detection API as part of it. So as part of the face detection, one of the attributes is emotion. So I hadn't used it, but obviously read about it because I'd used Recognition for my Lego car park.
And we will get to everybody. Don't worry.
Yeah.
More anticipation we're building up.
Yeah. Everything's like correlated.
Yes.
And so I was like, okay. And I was like, why don't I do a sentiment analysis, or like emotion detection? I call it sentiment analysis, but a sentiment analysis sweet machine. So like a pick and mix machine, but it's based on your emotions. And that's kind of how it unfolded, really. And then basically my manager, who was just like, okay, go for it then. You own this now, make it happen. So like, all right. So, bias fraction and all that lot. So yeah, basically that's how it came about, and I had a few weeks to build it. And so I basically did, I've got these literally candy machines that I bought off Amazon, literally just standard kind of, I think originally they were motion detection, but I removed that from it. And they just plug into the wall. Yeah, and they had like a motion detection, so you put a hand underneath it and it gives you some sweets. So I just removed that part. And then it's kind of very similar in a way to the car, in the sense that it's got a Raspberry Pi and a relay board, and the code is again triggering a GPIO pin, which then basically just triggers the wire on the motor of the sweet machine. So we'll just trigger that for like, I think it's like 5 seconds I set it for, and then we'll dispense sweets. But instead of it being like a button, it's using Recognition. So I had literally a Raspberry Pi camera that just plugged straight in. And so I can't remember if I had it in the video or not, if I did it afterwards, but I had a giant red button, which again I bought off Amazon.
It's right in front. That button is right there. I see. It's like an easy button.
Yeah, literally. So I can't remember when I'd filmed the video. Basically, just push the button and that triggers the Python script, which then turns the camera on, and then it takes a photo of your face and then sends that to Recognition. And then recognition is doing face detection. And then it gives loads of different attributes. But I just stripped all of them out, and I've got the emotion attribute part of it. And then I was just basically checking to see what the emotion was. And I'd done a filter, so I had 3 different machines, one happy, one sad, and I did one angry, just because I thought that might be a really funny face. And so if you were happy, it would then trigger, and it was like, I don't know, GPIO pin, we'll just say 1, for example. If you were sad, it would trigger 2, and if you were angry, it would trigger 3. And that's literally how it was. And it's such again, it's kind of one of those things that is quite simple, like actually the architecture of it. But again, just kind of has a lot of impact, I suppose, because something a little bit different, using image recognition to give you sweets. But yeah, that was basically how it came to be. And then I posted that video. So it was funny, I just finished getting it working, and I was I think, I don't know, it was about 6:30, and I was supposed to meet my friend for dinner, and I was like, I need to just like finish this off. I'm so close. I was like, can you come to the office? I was like, I'm only gonna be like 5 minutes. You only say like, I'm gonna be 5 minutes, and it's like another 5 minutes, and so on. And
In
then she was
fact,
like,
another 5 minutes is another half an hour or an hour. Just putting that disclaimer out there. I do it all the time. I'll be 5 minutes, 30 minutes later.
Yeah, pretty much. And so she was sat waiting. Anyway, I did get it working, and I was so happy. So I was like, will you just take a quick video? So my friend literally just took on my phone a quick video. I just sort of like 5 minutes before that video was taken, got it working. And then I didn't really think about anything. Went for dinner, it was all great. And then I think I posted it the next morning, like really early on, just like, I'll post it on LinkedIn and Twitter, just to show people. And especially on LinkedIn, that video just exploded. Like, it was insane. I thought the last video that did like 60,000 views. So this one got 250,000 views. And I can't even tell you, I can't even imagine what it must be like to be like a celebrity getting constant messages, because I was overwhelmed. Like, so it was funny because so I went into the office for a little while, and then I was going to do like a game day. So basically, for anyone who doesn't know, like with customers, you can run a game day. So it's like a simulated sort of, I don't know, you have a problem and you have to like solve this problem with AWS. And it's like this fun kind of like gamified sort of competition between different teams in a company. So I was sort of one of the people helping run it. And my phone just was going insane. Like the amount of comments and likes, and then I was getting emails from people. And then within the company, I was getting chimed, and I was just like, "This is insane." And like I said, like obviously you saw it, and then like people literally from every aspect of the company, and I was like, it was just mad. Like it is. When I say it's kind of changed my career, like it kind of has, because I've got so many opportunities. Like for example, I'm speaking to you because of that video, and like I've had other opportunities, like I work with different teams and to do like public speaking engagements and stuff because of that video. And that's why I think like social media for careers in general is super important. It's changed my career. Like I think people should utilize it more. Like it has such a powerful potential. And then, like I said, I know social media gets such a bad rep, but it's such a great way to showcase what you can do. Because otherwise people wouldn't know what I do.
So first of all, social media, yes and no. First of all, you can use it for your, bad things, but I choose to use it for good. So I do a lot of posting about AWS and share some personal stuff, but I like to showcase others, conversations and chat. So I completely agree with you. I'm going back to your sweet machine here because I got some funny questions for myself. So I did post here on YouTube. If you got questions for Laura, drop them in the chat. Laura will be happy to answer them.
Yeah.
I'll pull them into the conversation. She can see some of the questions, whatever works about it. But I got to ask you. So you said you put the wires on the back to trigger the motor for a certain amount of seconds. Did you think about triggering like happy, you get more, or sad, you get more or less? And, or can somebody do that and say, you know what, I want it to run for like 20 seconds and, get as much candy as possible?
So I didn't. So it's actually 3 separate sweet machines. And so you could do each one a different amount of time. I actually wanted to do different suites in the machines. So I was trying to, I had this little thing going around in our like sort of internal chime room. I was like, oh, what's a happy suite? I was thinking maybe Sajid could get like Sour Patch Kids or something. Or maybe if you're angry, you got like really disgusting sweets like, I don't know, licorice or something. And like I did think about doing something like that. Like I thought that would be kind of, especially for the to do it on the stand, I thought that would be like a really fun thing to do. And the idea actually was when it was on the stand, was to integrate it with QuickSight, because then you could see, say, over the day, the change, like how many people were sad, how many people are angry, how many people are happy, and that would just be a kind of like fun thing to see as well. I just thought that would be a good thing. So on that point, the reason, well, I was going to say the reason I did it, but obviously people would want to come, get some sweets. But then it's obviously an interesting talking point, but not to say the sweet machine has business use case, although I'm sure productivity, we could say it does.
It has plenty of business use case. I'm going to recommend one of these in every office. When you walk into Amazon, it's on the counter, and before you're able to proceed, you must give us your emotion, or we're going to read it.
I'm actually I'm gonna leave it in our London office, so people can play around with it. I'm gonna like sort of ruggedize it a little bit, because and then just literally leave it in the office so people can have a play with it. But obviously, like, you can talk about business use cases from sort of image recognition to then obviously QuickSight, which is like our business intelligence tool with like graphs and stuff. And so it kind of, people come to the suites, want to know about it, and then it kind of leads into conversations about AWS. So and I think that's kind of what I try and do with a lot of my demos, is that it's something fun, but then you can have conversations about the technology behind it. And because I think so much, like, it's actually how, funny enough, it's how I got into doing IoT, was when I was trying to learn about AWS. So I was doing, like I said, the Cloud Practitioner certification, and I did that and I studied, and that was fine. And then when I was doing the solutions architect, it was deeper, and it was obviously, I came from a technology background, as in, like, I did a computer science sort of management degree, so it wasn't like I had no idea. But I found it quite hard sometimes to learn about concepts when you're looking at a console and there's not anything like physical to see. And I was like, okay, I get that I've clicked a button and I've got a relational database here and a server here, but sometimes it's just really hard to kind of conceptually understand what's happening. And so I actually got into IoT because I could physically see, okay, the impact of what I was doing in AWS was having in the real world. And it started off almost like as a learning thing. So I tried, literally just like, I've got something, but like turning on little LED lights on a breadboard, like something really simple, like with like a Lambda function or something. Just be like, okay, I understand, I do this, and it has this impact here. And it kind of just went from there. And I think it's just something that's really important, is that AWS can be really fun, and the stuff that I try and do is just showing people actually in a really fun way what are the capabilities of AWS. Because sometimes, and I'll be honest, like, you read the documentation or you see it and I'll be honest, it's just kind of dry. And I'm like, okay, great. But what I'm trying to say is, like, for people trying to learn or get into it, and especially, again, going back to the whole like women in tech thing, showing actually some really fun things you can do, hopefully help inspire people to get involved. Because sometimes you read, like, okay, it might be technically great blog posts or whatever, but it might not inspire people to get into it if they're not already vested in that kind of really technical detail. So if I can show something really fun, and then that inspires people to go try things, then that's a win for me. Yeah.
So that's a good point. I was actually going to ask the question, if do you have some advice for women that want to get into tech, not just AWS, but want to get into tech? And you talked about it there a little bit, that, you're hopefully and unintentionally inspiring others through these videos that you're sharing. And you weren't even planning it. It was just one of those things, like, oh, this is awesome, I'm just going to post this. Maybe I'll get like 5 likes and some cool here, your feed's blowing up. So that's. Do you have some advice for women that want to get into tech or to break some of those barriers? I mean, for me, just hearing how you didn't stop, from project management, you're like, I don't want to do this. This is not my life. So now I made my own video. What's your advice?
So, I mean, that is the thing, that if you don't like what you're doing, you can change. Like, it's funny, like I hear about people saying like, oh, I've got to make a decision, like come out of university, and even if you didn't do something, technical degree, it doesn't mean you can't go into something. And I feel like, especially in women, and there's that whole kind of statistic about unless you can fill 100% of the requirements, women won't apply for the job, where men it's something like 6 out of 10 or something. I can't remember the exact stat, but there's something like that where women won't apply for a job unless they meet 100% requirements. So there's obviously something ingrained there, but I feel like that's what I'm trying to say. You don't have to have made your decision and made your lifelong career, like, even I'm 20, well, I'm 28, I'll be 29 in like 2 weeks time. And I've been doing AWS now for like a couple of years. And even if I was like 29 now, it doesn't, like, you can make a switch now. And I feel like that's especially important for women when they think, oh, I decided I wanted to do, I don't know, marketing when I was younger, and now I don't, I want to go into tech. You still can make that switch. And I think it's just important that go away and find what you're passionate about, and then go learn and go try. And like I said, like I went away and started building stuff in my spare time. Like my job didn't involve cloud in any way, didn't involve AWS. I was doing project management, I wasn't doing anything technical, but I really enjoyed like building things and trying new things. And so I went away and did all this in my spare time. And I think that's really important, because so many people, and you don't have to dedicate your life to tech. I want to make that really important, because there's definitely a sort of a thing in tech where it's been like, oh, I've been coding since I was 9 years old, and like I do it all day at the weekend. Like, you don't have to dedicate your life to it. Like, there's being passionate, and then there's also like having a life outside. But basically, go try things, go try that, and then showcase what you're about. And I know it's can be, women especially not the best at doing it, and being British, we're not great at like blowing our own trumpet and everything, but it's definitely really, really important to like showcase what you can do, otherwise people don't know. And that was the thing, like, unless I posted it on social media, nobody would have known, and then nobody would have given me the chance, because the traditional way with a CV just wasn't working. So my advice is literally go try new things, build stuff, and then tell people about it. Like, and I think social media is great for that, because you can get it out there to people outside of your network, which I think is really important, because otherwise, if they're already in your network, they probably already know what you're doing. So like LinkedIn, and it's like LinkedIn's great actually for spreading beyond your network. I found it like really, really good for going way beyond, and I don't know what the sort of the algorithm behind it all, but it seems to spread really well. So even just like liking somebody else's post will then, I'm not saying it shows it to everybody else, but it will come up in other people's feeds. And I think that's actually important as well, is as much as you want to promote your own things, I think you have to also be willing to promote other people's stuff, because otherwise that's kind of like, pay it forward and all of that lot. So I'll try and, like retweet or reshare, well, not just women, but women and men and everyone else, content, because hopefully then people will do the same for me. So yeah, I think that's kind of the most important thing, is just give it a go, and don't think that you can't try something new, because you can.
So you brought up, I took a couple of notes, because you brought up some good points here that I want to talk about. One, the last point of paying it forward. That's a really good point. And don't just like things just because you want to like them. Like it because you found the value and you're really interested and you want to help that person out. So I think that's a real good thing. I always try that those who are also, liking and sharing some of my stuff, to work with them and share some of theirs. So, I got a question for you. I'm sure on LinkedIn, all the messages that you got, do you try to respond to as many people as possible in the personal messages, not just on the comments? Just to take that thank you. You don't have to say much more, but
yeah, always. I will respond to everybody. And actually, it's funny, I get a lot of messages now about people looking for job advice. And even though like I'm not a recruiter like this, I will respond to everybody and give them advice like about sort of the job, interview, because the interview process at Amazon is quite a unique one. So I'll try and explain like how it works, what we're looking for. Like yeah, literally, I spend quite a lot of my time actually replying to questions, LinkedIn especially, but I get quite a lot of DMs on Twitter about oh, like, can you give me some advice about this job, or I've seen this job, like, do you know what requirements, or and especially when I post like new content, I then get questions about like, oh, how can I become a solutions architect? And I'll always respond to people because they're reaching out because they want to move forward with their career or whatever, and I always want to help people. So, and obviously like I said, I've got to where I am because obviously someone gave me a chance because I posted something on social media. So if I can sort of pay that forward and help other people, then yeah. So I will always respond to everybody. So I spent a lot of time, but like I said, I'm always happy to answer any questions. So if anyone's watching and you want to DM me about what I'd like to be a solutions architect or whatever, like absolutely, I'll always respond.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I follow the same premise. Whether I don't call myself a big like celebrity or anything, but those who take the time out to message me, if I say thanks, I appreciate it, or I reach out to them when they want some feedback. I always even suggest like, listen, if you find a position, let me know, and possibly I'll refer you to it. So here at Amazon, they take a lot of referrals from us, and we can chat and see what's going on, but I follow that completely. So that's always a good thing, and I will always try to respond. It may take a couple of days, but I want a valid response. I don't just want a quick one for you. So you mentioned a couple of other things. I think here's a question for you. When you get a new piece of service or hardware, do you read the documentation first, or do you jump in there to figure it out, get stuck, and then go to the documentation?
Yeah, I'm a little bit of like dive straight in before reading the documentation, which is not always the best thing to do, because something that took me about an hour to figure out I could have just read in the document. Yeah, I do have a habit of doing that, but I like, to be honest, it's probably not always the best way, but for me, actually, I quite like doing that. Just trial and error is kind of fun. Yeah, like yeah, I do that a lot. Like I'm just looking on my desk. I've got so I've got a Raspberry Pi, and then this is a Sense hat. So basically, it's got a little LED sort of matrix on it, but it reads temperature, humidity, pressure. Can't remember. It's quite a lot of different things. And I remember I just plugged it in. I was like, oh, I'll just see how this works. Like, didn't read the documentation. But it's actually pretty simple. But yeah, that was kind of just looking at it while you said that. Yeah, I dived straight in. Like, just, yeah, play around with things. Why not? Like, unless it's gonna like break something. Yeah, have fun.
Or start the car and put it in drive by accident.
Well, I was so worried about that. I was like, I hope this car doesn't like shoot forward. Like, yeah.
Nice. Christian, yeah, sometimes manuals take away the suspense. Yes, the suspense and the surprise at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only one that I read was the data sheet for so for my car park, it's got an ultrasonic sensor, and had to read the data sheet for that. But that was about the only one that I read from the start.
I'm right there with you. I do the same exact thing. The other one is, this was actually a big topic on Twitter the other day. You and I were talking about, just because you're involved in tech and you enjoy doing something in tech does not mean you have to consume your everyday life, even after hours or weekends. I agree with that, and I think we discussed that. You enjoy IoT. You enjoy what you do. Are you doing that 24/7? I mean,
No.
No.
Yeah, it was funny. Yeah, we talked about this. So I saw a great tweet from Abby Fuller on Twitter. If you don't know who she is, go follow her. She's awesome.
I want some of her bread.
Like, yeah, she does talk. She talks about tech and bread.
Yes.
So she tweeted out, and I can't remember the exact tweet, but basically she was saying that, you know, she also has a life outside of tech, and I think because she's built up a huge following on Twitter. She's got like, I don't know, 30,000 plus followers, like, you know, and she's really well known sort of within the AWS and wider sort of tech community. And I think people expect her to literally live and breathe technology, or AWS even. And yeah, and then she talks about bread, and I think she gets comments like, "Why are you talking about bread?" And she's like, "Because I like baking." And yeah, like, I obviously build stuff outside of my day job, and I think that's really important, especially in a job, you know, especially in technology, and especially AWS, which is just continuously moving forward all the time. Like, it's hard enough trying to keep up with the different AWS services that keep coming out and new launches, and I mean, it's exciting. And I think if you're to be in AWS, you have to like constantly learning new things, otherwise you just wouldn't keep up. Like, it is a job where you have to keep learning, and so you have to enjoy that. And part of that is that you will work outside of the sort of 9 to 5, whether it's just trying new things, playing with stuff, reading about a new launch that happened, whatever. But it doesn't mean that your like whole life has to be dedicated to that. Like, that's not healthy either. Like, we talk about, especially it's funny, I keep seeing I got an email actually this morning from AWS talking about, and it wasn't just to me, it was saying, remember to take your annual leave. And I'm actually guilty of this. I've not taken a single day. You know, that's definitely not healthy. But since I joined, I haven't taken a day off. Just I think because I'm new and I've just been excited by everything. And also with lockdown, I'm kind of like, where am I going?
Now,
But
let me stop you. Let me have a question right there.
yeah,
So, Laura's been here 10 months, correct?
yes.
Okay. It's not, it's not, are you not taking a day off because you obviously what's going on, but because you just don't want to lose that tech? Is it because you feel like a woman in tech, or you just,
No.
that's just you? Just for
It's just
clarification.
to be honest, it's just me in general. I think so. I did have holiday scheduled, and then obviously it all got cancelled because of COVID. So I had 2 holidays booked, sort of like around summertime. Obviously they've been cancelled, but it's more just me. I do like, yeah, I'm quite bad for not taking, but that's just me. There's no pressure to not take days off, or because I feel like, oh, I won't be able to keep up with the men and the, like, it's not like that. That's just me. But I think it's just what I was saying. It's really important that you don't have to constantly like live and breathe tech. I think that is really important. I do feel like women sometimes feel like either they have to do it to keep up, or if they don't do it, they're not going to fit in. And this kind of goes back to what I said before, and it's a quote that I always just say, like, "Oh, I haven't been coding since I was 9," because it's funny because I remember I went to before I joined AWS, I used to go to the AWS user groups. They're like community meetups. They're kind of all over the world. So I've been to a few different city ones. And they're really great. I think they're amazing. I've spoken at the Belfast one previously, and I'm in talks at the moment to try and speak the London one. So watch this space. And basically, sometimes though, some of those meetups, I'll be honest, it can be a bit intimidating, because the types of people that go sometimes come across as a little bit like almost like in competition with each other. Like, oh, I can code in, I don't know, 10 different languages, and I've been building computers since I was 5 or whatever. Like, there's a little bit of almost like this alpha male competition. And like, for me, I mean, I'm just not like that, and I don't. And it can be really intimidating. And then you think, oh, well, I'm not going to fit in this community. And I remember, like, so I was going to those meetups when I knew I wanted to go work in a job using AWS, and I was learning about it, and that's when I was like trying to apply for jobs. So it was before I was in it. And I remember thinking, oh, like, am I going to actually fit in? Like, oh, this sounds like I've not been doing this since I was 9, and I don't know how to write in 10 different languages. And I was like, oh, like, actually, I don't know if this is going to work for me. Like, maybe I'm not good enough. And it's that kind of like imposter syndrome, I think, is such a big thing. And that's why I kind of want to, and it's funny, I never intended to do, like, kind of, when I posted these videos, it never intended to be a kind of like, oh, I'm going to be a champion for women. Not, it was just more like, as in, I posted them just for a kind of like, upload it online sort of thing. But actually now, I'm trying to do more and more sort of in the women in tech space. I've got a couple of women in tech conferences coming up that I'm speaking at, because I've realized that actually there needs to be some kind of change. And I'm not saying I'm going to change everything, but it'll be like small incremental steps. Maybe I'll inspire somebody else, and they'll inspire somebody else, etc. Because yeah, like, this is, when I went to those meetups, I found that's how the community felt like, and it can be really isolating and off-putting. So I think if I can help change that, then that'll have a positive impact. Yeah.
No, that's really good information. I apologize if I look down. I'm taking some notes because some of the things you're saying, I'm like, oh, I got to ask her that. I don't think I'm going to get to everything I want to ask you. In fact, we are going to go to our, at least to the hour. I can't believe we've been chatting this long. So I have 2 more topics I want to get to. One, Lego City. We got to talk about the Lego City. I'm going to bring this on the scene here, and it's just the 2 pictures that I have showing that you're going to see of the Lego City you built and the presentation. So walk us through and explain to people why you built this and what it's for internally and what it really does. And, I thought this was cool. I didn't even know about this until we talked.
I know.
I only found out one thing you did, and we chatted, and I found out like 4 more other things you did. So this is awesome. Go ahead.
So basically, internally at AWS, for solutions architects, when you join, you have a 3-month onboarding process, and it's called the Master Builder Program. And I actually think it's really awesome. And I think we should shout about it more, because it's funny, because I remember like trying to look online to see if there was any information, anyone spoken about it. I mean, like, externally, and there was absolutely nothing. And I think I'm trying to like see if I can get some stuff published, because I think it's a really good onboarding process. Basically, you have 3 months of onboarding, and you do Master Builder 1, 2, and 3. So the first one is simulating a customer first meeting. So you kind of do like an AWS 101 kind of presentation, and you have your colleagues who are pretending to be a customer. So mine was like a university, so it was the AWS University, and so you're presenting to them like what AWS is and how it can benefit universities, and then they ask you questions, and it's quite funny, really. But then you do that, and then the second Master Builder 2, so the second meeting, is that after the successful first meeting, they kind of say, okay, great, we want to try build a POC of something, and then your manager will come up with an idea. And so mine, because I was interested in IoT, was to do some kind of automated IoT car park. And long story short, I thought of doing essentially what it is. Car comes in to the barrier of a car park. And my car park was like a members only car park. So you got a permit for your university car park or something. So car comes up. I had an ultrasonic sensor that basically, when the car came up, triggered, and then that took a photo of the number plate of the car, and then it would look in DynamoDB to see whether that car with that number plate was registered as allowed into the car park. If yes, I had a little servo, and the barrier would go up, and if not, then I had a little traffic light. I found these really cute LED traffic lights that sat on a Raspberry Pi GPIO pins. They were like, red, amber, green. And so if no, you got a red light, and if yes, you got a green light. And the car would go in. That would then trigger off at a step function, and it basically had a timer. So the car had been allowed in, and then the timer was like how long you're allowed in the car park. So, if you have a permit and you have like 60 minutes around the car park. I just did it 60 seconds for the demo, but car goes in. It basically, after the timer has elapsed, if the car hasn't left the car park, and it would know that via the exit, and there was another camera there, and it would basically take a photo, do recognition, and then scrub the name off the car park DynamoDB list. If it was still in the car park, then using SNS would then trigger an email and a text message to say you've overstayed your time in the car park. And so that's what I did. And so the second meeting is basically doing a POC doing the architecture of this potential POC. So you're talking about what you were doing. You have to do whiteboarding with your colleagues pretending to be a customer. And you say, here's my proposed architecture. And they ask questions. And then the Master Builder 3 is we actually go and build it. And so I was like, okay, what am I going to do for this car park? And I thought, Lego, let's go with Lego. And so I got the Lego city pieces. So it's literally the roads and the little Lego cars. I mean, this is the fanciest student car park ever because there's like a Ferrari and a Porsche in it. Because
And it's got trees and a barrier, and we got people and flowers. So it's pretty cool.
I'm not joking, I had the best time. I went to the Lego shop in Leicester Square, which is this humongous, like 2-story Lego shop in the middle of Leicester Square.
I was there. I actually had the pleasure of doing that. So I know what you're talking about.
It is great. Like, and I just went around, and it was funny because I then took my idea and I was like, because I was trying to like look for all these different pieces, and I went up to like the shop assistant. I was like, "Can you help me?" And we were talking about it. And I was getting them all involved, trying to build this car park. It was great. But had way too much fun building it. But yeah, basically, I made this out of Lego. So literally, and then I like integrated the sensor and the camera, and so you drive the car up, and it literally so it's interactive. And basically for my Master Builder 3, which is like your final presentation. And I demoed this, and if it was as if it was to a customer, and then basically if you sort of pass that, then you've passed your onboarding and go off into the wild and be a solutions architect.
That I thought was interesting. First of all the use of different AWS services. Mind you, just because this is my show, the AWS Blogger, I actually do not we talk about AWS services in general and how we're using, but I don't push anybody towards them. This is just all fun and humorous. We enjoy the conversation. Oh my God, we only have like a few minutes left. Holy crap.
It's gone so fast.
Damn. Next time we'll have to schedule 2 hours. I don't think I'm gonna have to make through everything. I have all kinds of questions. We're gonna have to have a number 2. Laura, if you're up to it, we'll have a number 2. So you mentioned the AWS meetup. The next time you're on the States, I created an AWS Lehigh Valley meetup group here within Pennsylvania. I'd like to have you stop by when we're allowed to travel and kind of go there and interact. So that would be really cool. We might have to bring the candy dispenser.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I'd love to. Yeah, I'd love to come.
That would be awesome. Plus, you can join us for an Underground Deep Racer series here that I host in my basement.
I've seen that. I look so cool. I watched your video from the other day. Yeah, you look really good.
Speaking of that, tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern here, and David will be on there as well. We're actually going to have a special guest joining us for a series on the Underground. So that's tomorrow. Real quick, can you tell us the next things you're working on? I know you talked about some diversity training, a chatbot, and Kendra, you did a video series. I think everybody would like to know some of the things that you're working on based off of this, and we'll probably wrap it up afterwards because I got to get to some of that because I think the list of things you're doing is growing. I'm not sure how you have time.
Yeah. So what am I doing? To be honest, I've got quite a few talks scheduled at the moment. So sort of doing all of these, I'm trying to, like I said, work on sort of women in tech and diversity. So I've got a couple of women in tech talks that feature IoT. So I'll be able to share them when I've got more details, but I've got a couple of those coming up. And then actually in terms of like a build, I'm kind of building upon the sweet machine. I point over there, it's behind me, it's in a box though. But basically, because I built it, and then people are like, that's great, it's cool. And then I started to get questions about how is this useful, like customers and kind of like saying like, how is this useful in actual proper sort of, implementation, like, and so I thought, okay, I want to do sentiment analysis, but something that could be useful. So what I've got is a Philips Hue light, and there's been, because it's got an API, you can interact with it, and they literally have a whole developer sort of community around this Philips Hue light. So for anyone who doesn't know, it's basically the light that I think it's got, like, I think it says in the box like 4 million colors it can change to. And they do light bulbs. I'm doing this because mine's like a little desk one. And what I'm going to do is, so there's a whole piece around sentiment analysis and like light theory and how light impacts like productivity and mood. So what I thought was building upon my sentiment analysis. So I was going to do a video stream of capturing a room. So it could be a classroom, because obviously my customer education, but it could be an office. And then basically, based on the room's sentiment, and it could be every, I don't know, half an hour, you check it and do an aggregate, then change the light color to basically boost productivity or mood. So if people seem like really sluggish, whatever, you could change it to green or whatever it is. Like, I'd have to look into the whole sort of list, but basically building upon the sentiment analysis, but like boosting like work productivity.
Nice. I like that. So, I mean, I apologize. I can't believe an hour. Christian had a great idea here. Make it a series. We'll have to talk. I'll have to talk with her publicist to make sure she can get some time. Yeah, get onto our schedule here. So I have so much more, but you know what? I'm going to save that to our next talk. I just think you mentioned some really good things that I didn't know with applying for, a job role. Women that will, if they don't have all the requirements, they won't. So we're going to get to that one. I got that down there. I wanted to ask that question. There's plenty more, I'm sure, that Laura's working on. I'd like to thank, first of all, Laura, thank you for joining me on the show today, having a cool conversation. None of this is scripted. In fact, I've got a sticky here with just some topics, and we just talk. That's usually how everything goes. And I'd like to take some questions, and we see where it goes. I have a loose agenda. So thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. It's been really fun.
Yes. So the next time, I'm hoping maybe she'll have built on the sweet machine and we can showcase it.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's put that on there. Put a little note. We're going to, I think let's do that. We'll hype that one up a little bit and get a lot of views. Hey, did you see this one? Well, guess what? Here's the build on that one. So awesome. I really appreciate the time. Everybody that's joined us here live, or when we do go for the playback, make sure you fill out the survey. Let us know how we did, what you want to hear about, what you want to talk about. Christian, you're the only one that joined on the chat. Thanks for joining us on that one. Appreciate it. Until next time. Thanks, Laura.